Okay, hi and welcome back to my shop. I'm just taking this radio cabinet off, or taking the chassis out of this radio so we can change the power supply filter capacitors. And I was going to just do this off camera, but I decided to turn on the camera and look at this situation under here. Not a big deal, but there's some extra holes under this radio. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. They look very much like holes to take a different chassis, to screw the bolts in to hold a different chassis in place. But this is the hole that I really wanted to get on camera. This hole is really inviting a screwdriver to go in there, and I'm really quite curious about what it is that's in there. It could just be access to a tuning part or something like that. Okay, open wide. I'm looking in there. What the heck? I don't know what I'm seeing there. Have a look. Have a look. Can we see? Let's see if I can do this. Well, it's not so inviting for a screwdriver. It's kind of weird looking. So I'll be curious just what this is once I get the radio out. Just so you know, when I'm going to take a chassis out of a radio like this one, I usually turn it on its side like this, usually with the transformer down, and take out the lower screws and take out one of the upper screws. And that's because it's easy to see the screw and do it on its side. Take this screw out, and now the chassis is ready to flop around, so I don't want to do that while it's on its side. But you can almost certainly take out 4 or 3 of the 4 screws and not have the radio. Might swing on this, but I doubt it. Okay, there we go. Last screw though, I would only take out with the radio down like this. But you can see that you can't see. Now you can see it's a little more awkward because I can't see the screw. Not too awkward. Now get this radio out. I love the way these radios are made. The knobs, the buttons, everything. The glass, it all comes out. It all comes out. What a gooey mess that is. Here, let's just take a close look at this. This ugliness. Hang on one second here. I just change the focal distance here on my camera. There we go. So just pushing it back a little bit so we can see what's collected in here. There's a lot of goo, which is why these buttons are so gooey. You know, like this button that seems to operate slow. It could be hard to tell in the camera, but it could be the goo right in here. There's probably goo between the buttons too. Let's see. Oh yeah, see the between them. All this stuff has to be cleaned up to make these buttons look nice and work nice. Oh, that's not very clean in there either. So when you clean that up, it's going to look a lot better. Okay, now next question is the speaker coming out? No, the speaker's not coming out. The next question after that is it wired with a long piece of wire? Yeah, it's a fairly long piece of wire. Now, what else is interfering with the cabinet when we pull it out? Are there any parts hanging down? No. Looks like it's going to come out easy as pie. You know what? I don't find pie that easy, frankly. So there we go. And sure enough, an entire drink or something has been poured into this radio. Holy smokes. Look in there. Well, how would that happen? Well, this could be sitting on a counter. Little Johnny could have his glass of Coca-Cola sitting right in front of the radio. He would knock it with his elbow, like that, fall over right onto the front of the radio and shoot right in past the buttons and everything before Mommy can do anything about what Johnny has done. Now this is a great thing. Having taken this out here, I've spotted something else. It's quite important to make a strong observation here. So look, let me just get my hand right in there. Look at that crack. Starting from that hole, that crack extends all the way right almost to the front. This cabinet is about to split in two. So this radio is about to die. Really, this is the death knell. Now, does the crack extend past the hole there right to the back edge? Doesn't look like it. Looks like it's stopping. Looks like there's a crack right through that screw hole too, going right here. No, maybe not. It might just be some dirt. It's a very, very serious thing. If I pick the cabinet up, let's just talk about this a little bit here, because this is how you kill a radio. Once the cabinet is shot, the radio is shot. They have to find another cabinet on a similar radio and make two radios into one. One radio is leaving the world. So we don't want that kind of stuff to happen. We want these things to be around 20 years ago. I want to fix this guy again 20 years from now. Yeah, I don't want to. So we're going to have to free the speaker away from the cabinet, so I can take the cabinet away and really work on it. I can't leave these wires here. So I think what I'm going to do is a multi-connector here. So let's see. And this, it just looks like, yeah, here's the audio transformer here, output transformer here, power supply transformer here, output transformer here, not on the speaker. Get it right, Jim. Sometimes I get this wrong on these radios. So this one, I can plug any speaker into these wires. I'm just going to cut them away, and I'm going to leave a little tidbit of wire there, right here. So that'll tell me where these wires go later. Let's take a look at this cabinet now. Get a good look at it, because I think this is less about the radio and more about the cabinet than anything. Well, whatever it was that got poured in here went right out the back of the radio, so little Johnny got in a lot of trouble on this for sure. There's a secret sticker. Who knows what that is? Okay, I'm just looking at all over the place for any more cracks. It might be easier to see them on the inside, but I don't see one. Now let's look at this side here. Oh boy, okay. So here's the crack extending from the corner of this brake all the way going right up the side of this radio. And then you can almost see where the crack will go. You can almost get an impression of that it'll travel out to there. I don't want that to happen. So here's the thing. So here's a nice old radio in there. Let's say the back is off, and you can grab it like this. This is a convenient way to carry the radio. Just grab it up here and carry it. It's pretty convenient. But doing that will stretch this crack, this kind of crack, and strain it. And if this thing is cracked all the way to the back, which is a little hard to see, let's get the close-up camera on that. Just getting the focus as sharp. Oh, look! Oh, it's pretty clear in the camera that this has been repaired. If this guy did crack, oh boy, look at the cracks. There's a crack down this way, a crack over this way, That looks like a seam coming up there. Surprising it didn't crack on the seam. Yeah, so it's going to be a big glue job to freeze this thing, but it has to be. And I think, once again, epoxy is the way to go on this kind of stuff. To stop the progress of it. Or this radio won't be around 20 years from now, because it's only going to get more brittle. So we'll set him aside. What's he got here? Any information? Okay, the speaker grills, they're fakes. There's no speaker inside. There's only one speaker. So typically, often these radios have tweeters on the side. Not this one. But you'd be fooled if you saw it like that in the store. And of course, all radios, they're trying to fool you on the size of the speaker. The speaker's here, and this is nothing. But, all radios do that. So we'll set this thing aside before I do break it. And we'll get back after the chassis here. Ooh, perfect. This radio is made to be stood up on the end here just perfectly. Hey, what's this? What's this metal plate here? What's going on? Ooh. Okay, so I see the on-off switch. Boy, not going to get anything easy. Here's that funny hole we were looking at. Let's just make sure I can roll this thing around on its other side. Yes, I can. So, okay, so these holes access what I'm sure are tuning slugs, probably for capacitors. This one, I still don't know what the heck is going on there. So if we do get around to doing some tuning, I'm going to have to turn these guys, I'm sure. Any other funny business in there? Let's take a close look with the close-up camera. Okay, well, you can see the high voltage dust on those wires, the yellow and the orange wire. Just bring a little more light onto the scene here. So those are the two capacitors that we're going to have to change. I'm going to find another spot to put the new capacitors. Probably just back in here in this fairly large open space here. Maybe I can mount them against this bracket with a tie wrap. And just transfer these wires from down here over. That's my thinking right now. Now, looks like this was bath soldered. Maybe not. It's pretty rough looking though, isn't it? Don't expect to see anything particularly bad here. Well, what's that? It's a resistor and a capacitor kind of floating there. Not typical in a manufactured radio to have a part floating like this. That's a nice looking resistor there. Kind of sticking out. Kind of a high wattage one too, eh? Sticking out there. And back in there are all the switches. We can't really see them, which have to be loosened up. There you can see the high voltage wire coming along, and you can see a bit of a dirt effect on the circuit board right where the wires sneak under it. Now everything looks fine. I'm not seeing anything here that's dramatic. There's not a lot to see back here. I guess all the components are on the top side of the radio. Kind of a greasy, gooky radio. So I'm looking for any parts that look burned, charred, capacitors that look real ugly, funny wiring things, previous work, excessive dirt, a lost cat, you know, anything might be in there. And of course, the gold bars that I'm always waiting to find inside one of these radios. Grandpa's gold, but I haven't found it yet. So that capacitor's not looking so good. And kind of interesting that there's one here, a certain style, and another one right there with a different style of capacitor. Has that been replaced? The solder job looks original. There's the fuse. The fuse. Yeah. I don't think we're going to spot anything. A lot of dust up in there. We should probably get rid of that. Okay, let's go back to these capacitors now. These guys here. So I see one terminal grounded here. Yeah, let's go back to the close-up camera. So one terminal of the capacitor is grounded here. It has three more terminals. One is connected by wire straight over to the other one. And this capacitor doesn't appear to have a ground lead. It only has two lugs on it. It looks like the ground is here. They're relying on the case of the metal case of the capacitor, and they see these twisted lugs here. They've soldered one of them solid to the chassis to make a good connection. In fact, they didn't solder it directly to the chassis. They soldered it to a lug that's riveted to the chassis. And then this is also connected in. This is the lug. What is going on here exactly? It's kind of odd. It's kind of odd in that they'd have a ground here, clearly connected to the case of this capacitor, and they also have one leg grounded. Now, I don't know. I don't know why that is offhand. I'll have to figure it out before we start putting in more capacitors. And what about our plan for doing that? Lots of space in this radio here. Shove some capacitors somewhere in here. Fix them in place somehow. Lots of options. Lots of space and lots of options here. So we just need to figure out what is going on with this. And I think a quick hunt for the schematics is probably what I should do. I think that's what's in order. Let me go see if I can find a schematic. Okay, no surprise to me, I was able to find the schematics for this on Radio Museum on the internet. So a lovely set of alignment instructions, very, very detailed. Excellent. I got the circuit diagram, which is a little small to look at, but I'm going to zoom it up on my camera here so we can figure out which way's up. So let's take a look at it. Okay, so we're looking at the power supply portion of the schematic. Let me just pull back for a minute. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at the power supply area. And what do we see there? Let's see. Well, it's not quite in focus, is it? Let's just get it a little sharper here. So there's a big capacitor right there. 50 millifarads. So that's going to be one section of those two capacitors. Oh, to green lead of T2 to yellow lead of T2. Oh, there's another 50 right there. What's that say? That says C1, C1. Okay, so those are the potentially the two halves of C1. There's one with three though. Three halves. Okay, so there's a 0.01 capacitor over there, and that's just some filtering thing. Not a... Well, that's not enough big capacitors there. There's more in this radio. Unless I'm totally mistaken about what's above. Well, let me check. Let's do, I didn't actually check. Oh, I am mistaken. Ah. Okay, so let's take a look at what's above here. Go back to the close-up camera. Okay, so now there's a capacitor, and look, there's some junk coming out of this hole on the top of it here. The thing right beside it is not another capacitor. In fact, I'm quite certain that's a type of resistor, sometimes called a ballast resistor. It goes in series with the vacuum tube heaters. Are all the vacuum tube heaters in series? No. What is that thing? Okay, what I'm saying is not making 100% sense. Is it a... No, I don't think that's going to unplug. So what is that? Maybe it is a capacitor then. I don't know. Now, first of all, look, there's a winding on the transformer that's putting out the this winding here. That's putting out the voltage for the heaters. And so there's no reason for there to be a ballast. There's the light bulb there, 7 volts. So what is that thing? It's a pretty good manual. I didn't print all the pages, but there's other pages that identify components. So I should go take a look, just to be sure. Because it looks like a ballast tube, but there's no way I'm going to be able to pull that out of there. It's curious it's black. I really don't remember any power supply capacitors that are black. But then where is the rest of those big capacitors? Let's see if we can spot them up in the circuit diagram here. Okay, so there's one there. This is the cathode resistor here, 270 ohms, quite typical, and looks like 25 millifarads. This capacitor is probably one of those sections. Not for sure. Hey, where's the other big sections? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on. Now it talks about the yellow wire down here to yellow lead and to green lead. Very separate. Why is this so separate? Okay, so these are the output voltages here. No, wait a minute. What's that say there? Does that say FM switch? I got to change the focus on my camera here. I'm not getting close enough to see what it is I'm reading. Let's go a little closer. FM switch. So you see there's a 235 volt source, and then there's a 250 volt source. I better point to these things. You'll be looking at one thing while I'm talking about something else. This one here, the one that come off the switch. And the FM switch is selecting, either energizing this line or energizing that line. So I'm pretty sure that's just switching B plus onto the FM tube, the FM tuner tube. And the other setting, it must be removing voltage from an AM only tube. Probably the AM mixer tube. I'm not sure how they've done this. That's a curious thing though. And then there's the actual output there, 235 to 250. That's very strange. Why does it say 235, 250? And why is this one 250 here and 235 there? And it's the same wire coming from here. Has to be the current drop. That'd have to be a drop through this 1200 ohm 2 watt resistor. So when the switch is in the FM position, there's more draw, and so the voltage is dropping further down to, no, it's not dropping as far. It's not dropping as far. And you know what? So you throw that switch, changes the load on the power supply, changes the voltage drop on the resistor. So this output does also change with the position of this switch, as you're switching in and out some of the circuitry in the radio. You're switching in and out the B plus supply to some of the circuitry or the tubes. Okay, so I got that figured out, so I think. So one, looks like one two-part capacitor. Okay, so let's peer under the radio again. The simplest stuff. But you know, when you think things are simple and you make assumptions, well, you're on your way to making mistakes. And as much as this looks to me to be two capacitors, one here and one here, I am no longer so sure about that. This one's definitely a capacitor, this lower one, because I can see from above, there's no question. There's the two parts. There's the two wires, a red one and a yellow one. Did I say red and yellow? I don't think so. What did it say again? What were those colors? Green and yellow. Green and yellow. And that's definitely not green, that's red and yellow. So I see in the circuit diagram there is a resistor in there. 2 watt resistor. It's not apparent when I look at the radio just where that resistor is. It's always good to hunt down these resistors, these big high wattage resistors, and take a look at them. These guys, because they work hard and they run at a high temperature, they tend to have a shortened life on them. Well, we really got to find out what this other item is. So I'm going to stop here and take a look at some more information about this radio and see if I can figure out what that other, you know, what this thing actually is. Those two wires are pretty suspicious too. They really look like the kind of thing that would take off the heaters. But you wouldn't be connecting heaters to the positive terminal of a high voltage capacitor. So what's going on here? I don't know. Let me go see if I can.